same reason everybody is here. There's a sense of a new conversation. There's a sense of a new cultural impulse. And this cultural impulse has to do with a desperately needed shift in the way we organize our civilization. I have a little bit of institutional memory in that I remember the 1960s and the 1970s. And I'd like to give a little bit of feedback in how I see this new peace movement, as it were, compared to the peace movement of the 1960s and 1970s. My entire life and career has been spent in the emerging spiritual conversation, our need for a sense of global oneness and unity, our need to face the fact that we are destroying our own habitat, i.e. the earth, our need to face the fact that our militarism is unsustainable, that the gaps between rich and poor, not only in our country and around the world, is an unsustainable option for the human race. However, as someone who feels that I can say this from within the system, that I can say this as someone who myself gives talks, seeks in my own spiritual journey, the books that I write and so forth, to talk about this conversation of global oneness, I do feel the need to give some feedback here. In the 1960s, we danced, we talked about oneness, and then we kicked ass stopping a war. We did not separate our sense that the rock and roll, the fun, the excitement about this new conversation and the possibilities for peace, we did not separate this from our need for political activism. And it concerns me today, because let me tell you something, we are naive and we are immature if we believe that this vision of unity that we all have and we all celebrate does not directly repudiate the economic and political status quo of our country and of the Western civilization. Several years ago, I remember being very impressed when I read that Bruce Springsteen was in Washington, D.C., and he was invited by the White House. President Clinton wanted him to go by and take a visit while he was there. I was very impressed by Springsteen's response. It was, "No, sir, thank you, but I'm an artist, and an artist must retain the capacity to speak truth to power and to tell the status quo, political or economic, not on our watch. We are the artists. We speak the heart's truth, and what you're doing is not okay." And so I would hope that as we speak about these possibilities at festivals like this, yes, we are talking about the possibilities of turning the Titanic around before it hits the iceberg. The iceberg is standing right in front of this ship of the human race right now. That iceberg could take the form of nuclear catastrophe. It could take the form of weather refugees, weather catastrophe. There are so many forms that that catastrophe could take. If we are looking at it with the mortal mind, the probability vectors for the next 20 years are exceedingly grim. We must turn the Titanic around, and we will not do that over white wine and brie. We will not do that just by having fun conversations. We will do that because we will repudiate in acts of nonviolent, absolutely proactive non-participation with a status quo that does not feel that we need to turn this ship around. And right now, if we do not shift out of probability vector into possibility vectors, God help us, and God forbid that we die knowing on our last day on this earth we sang songs, we had fun, but we did not do what we came to this earth to do, and that is save this place, save this place, save this place. And if anyone is meant to be the conscience of a society, if anyone is meant to say, there's the light and there's the darkness, and we got to head towards the light, and we got to do it now, that is the artist. And every one of us, I believe, is an artist. So I hope that the conversation that we are having today, I hope that the conversation is not only celebratory, but that it is by no means self-congratulatory. Because the truth of the matter is that while we have, as people, we have it as the human race, and we have it as Americans, we have decency, we have goodness, and we have love in our hearts. We have ideas. There are people in the fields of technology. There are people in the fields of the arts. There are people all over this country and all over this world who are feeling from the deepest place places within us. There's a new light that beckons, a new possibility for the human race. But as I said before, the organizing principles for human society right now, both political and economic, repudiate that possibility. The only way that we will change this world and change it in time, ladies and gentlemen, I believe, is if we absolutely change the organizing principle of human society from economic values to humanitarian values. And when we speak truth to power, and when we say that the bottom line for how we organize our society will no longer be short-term economic gain for a few, but rather the children. In the United States alone, we have 23.1% child poverty rate. Among 35 developed nations of the world, that is second only to Romania. We have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world and any country in history. And with the Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court, we are only feeding the sinister machine by which a few, a relative few, get to completely dominate with their economic influence the politics of the United States. The late Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis said, you can either have great amounts of wealth concentrated in the hands of a very few, or you can have democracy. You cannot have both. So ladies and gentlemen, while we sing, while we have fun, while we dance, and it's important that we sing, and it's important that we have fun, and it's important that we dance. As Emma Goldman said, I don't want to go to a revolution I can't dance at. Oh, it's important that we sing. It's important that we dance. It's important that we talk about possibilities. But I hope also we will realize and always remember, these are very sobering times. This takes a deep thinker to move through these times. So let us remember that the rock and roll artists of the 1960s had not yet been bought and sold by corporate dominion of record companies and so forth. If there is anybody that the system would like to co-opt and co-opt quickly, it's those of us who sing and those of us who write and those of us who know what's happening. Let us not be deceived. Let us be those that generations after look back at us and go, they were amazing and they were smart too. God bless you. Thank you very much.